Which road tech trends are going to be hot and which are going to flop? The year ahead is shaping up to be brilliant for the bike tech nerds among us, and joining me today is BikeRadar's Aero expert, Mr. Simon von Bromley.
Lovely to be here with some serious speculation. Some of our predictions are possible, and some of yours, Liam, well, they're bold.
Bold, yes. We'll get to mine in a bit, but our senior tech editor, Warren Rossiter, has provided our first tech trend. And he says electronic group sets, well, they'll spread further down the food chain. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that's one we can all support. Having electronic shifting at lower and lower price points is a trend that we've been seeing for a few years, and I really hope that this continues in 2023.
So Shimano bought us 105 Di2 in 2022, and although it's nigh on twice the price of 105 mechanical, it can be found on bikes from as little as 2,299 quid, so it's much better value on bikes as aftermarket.
Yeah, well, SRAM on the other hand set a huge precedent with a price reduction on force axis eTap after it had been on the market for about a year or so. So, if they do the same with what's already the most affordable group set on the market, Rival Access, then that will bring the tech down to an even much lower price point.
Oh, that would make electronic bikes really cheap. Now, Warren also says that he wouldn't put it beyond SRAM to bring eTap down to an even lower level too. That would certainly help them to draw customers away from Shimano at the entry-level price point.
Yeah, and Warren, as you might expect, didn't stop there either. He reckons that dedicated Aero road bikes will also make a comeback this year.
Yes, I think we both love to see the return of the specialised Venge. But Simon, why is Warren predicting this?
Well, the UCI has recently updated its rulebook, and they've allowed a certain amount of leeway compared to what you used to have. They got rid of the 3-to-1 rule. You can now have things that are technically up to kind of 8-to-1, as long as they basically fit within the series of boxes that the UCI has given you. So essentially, just a little bit more freedom this year to design Aero road bikes. But I don't know if any brands have been working towards these new rule changes, or whether we're going to see these in years to come. Hopefully this year.
So in plain English, what Simon is saying is that the tube shapes can get massive now.
Yeah, theoretically so, but of course, if you had an 8-to-1 tube, it would have to be, I think, around like a centimetre wide if it was to be 8 centimetres long. So that's going to be a bit of an engineering challenge for brands to make out of any material, let alone carbon fibre.
The previous rules, and probably to an even greater extent, the public's love of lightweight machines meant that road race bikes have become, well, a little similar in looks, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, there are bikes that have broken the mold. I'm thinking of the kind of like the Ribble Ultra SLR, for example, and especially like the Hope HBT track bike that we saw a couple of years ago just before the Olympics. And of course, who can forget Trex Madone with its wonderful hole in the seat tube?
But the new rules might just make it attractive enough to brands for some properly fast aero machines in 2023.
Absolutely, and I'm really hopeful that includes a new Cannondale System 6. That was one of my favourite aero road bikes from the last few years. Really, really fast, and I really hope there's a new one.
Now, moving on, and I am predicting that 2023 will be a battle of the group set. Campagnolo has already done it with e-car, and Shimano has now got 12 speeds. SRAM, I think, will add a cog and go 13 speed, and I think it will start with a 10-tooth cog.
Yeah, I think if they do that, it would start with a 10-tooth cog. I love your confidence, Liam. I'm not sure we're going to see 13 speeds. Of course, it has been done, as you said, by Ekar with Campagnolo, but I just don't know. I don't know if SRAM needs it. That's all we'll say. But I would love to see it.
Well, I think that would be quite special, but gears are not the only thing in a group set. You've got to have brakes as well, and I think SRAM needs to do quite a bit of work to bring their brakes up to Shimano's level.
Yeah, we've seen Shimano add a number of new technological features to their brakes in recent years. Most significantly, perhaps, is the bringing over of servo wave from their kind of mountain bike and gravel group sets to the road group sets. That's given you more pad clearance, better lever feels, and I think we've all ridden a lot of Shimano brakes this year, and they are really the current kind of gold standard for road disc braking. I know some people love Campagnolo brakes, including our own Oscar Huckel, but I think for the most part, Shimano is really the one pushing the boundaries there.
Yeah, so Shimano's non-linear pad travel results in quick brake actuation with extra clearance and then a beautifully squishy lever. For me, SRAM needs to bring in some extra clearance and better lever feel.
Well, that's all very good, but I think Shimano will counter with a new version of Mechanical 105, intended to put out the fire that is the comment section on 105 Di2. This will simply fan the flames because it could be quite expensive and probably difficult to get hold of.
Definitely difficult to get hold of. I think there's a lot to digest in the Groupset battleground. Personally, I just can't wait to see what happens, really. I'm hopeful of a 13-speed SRAM Groupset. I know you don't think it's going to happen,
yeah,
but I'd love it to.
It's not that I don't want it to. Obviously I'm still running 11-speed Shimano 105 on my road bike, and it's just really hard to think, if I buy a more expensive Groupset, is it going to make me any faster? Now, that's not to say I wouldn't love to see 13 speed, and of course I am hoping for a 12-speed Mechanical 105 Groupset this next year, because I think that would be the kind of Groupset that, hopefully is priced at what the majority of people, or kind of majority of serious cyclists, can afford. I think as we've seen with 105 Di2, if they don't get that price point right, then that could be disappointing, but I'm very hopeful, and since we've made this video, I've no doubt Shimano is listening and they'll be taking this into consideration.
Oh yes, yeah, you listen to us, Shimano. Now, sticking with Groupsets, Ash Quinlan predicts that Shimano's Tiagra will likely become the replacement for 105. There was a time when you could buy a bike at, £1,500, and you'd get yourself a very good 105 carbon road bike. It would be brilliant.
Absolutely, and with growing economic pressures and continuing supply stresses across the industry, I think Ash expects more people to be dipping towards Tiagra on the higher level Groupsets, especially if, as we hope, it gets updated.
But what do you guys think? Would you save money by dropping down to Tiagra? Let us know in the comments below. Another one from Warren now. He thinks that the endurance bike category will diverge in 2023, so more bike categories, that's just what we need, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it has to be said that endurance bikes are already showing some signs of splitting. We have, of course, seen this with some of the big brands, and I think the divide is likely to get even bigger this year. So
the new Trek Domane has been on a diet and returned to its kind of classic racing roots. The flip side is that Cannondale Synapse has all but ignored racing.
Yeah, the early models on launch, they didn't even have UCI certification, and instead it just brought kind of bigger tyre clearances and more integrated tech. So it has lights, and it also has an integrated kind of Garmin Vario radar.
So the Synapse is now an endurance bike capable of some light gravel work and built for real world riders. It will, I think, also be intriguing to see where Specialized go with the Roubaix. They already have two distinct types of gravel bike with the Crux and Diverge. Might the Roubaix, which already has FutureShock 2.0 at the front, might it get FutureShock rear like the Diverge?
Well, that could be quite something. I think the question is, do these bikes need it? We kind of get criticised for this all the time. Is it going to be an endurance bike? Is it a road bike? Is it an all-road bike? What does it all mean? Do we really know? Do you need all this tech on your road bike? Who knows? I'm not so sure, but maybe it sells more bikes.
Do you want to give us a prediction of your own?
Right, I'm going to say that Aero sensors will still not be the new power meters. Now, on-bike Aero sensors basically promise a live display of your CDA, or your coefficient of aerodynamic drag, on your head unit. And because of this, they've promised to be the next big thing in cycling for around 5 years now. There are a growing number of brands which already have devices on the market, or those which are bringing products to the market soon. So it is tempting to wonder if 23 could be the year when things finally come good and the power to reduce drag is finally democratized.
So are we all going to be way more aero?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh.
The problem is like aerodynamics is super complicated, and measuring a rider's drag with an on-bike sensor just isn't an easy thing to do. There are so many variables at play. You've got the rider, the weather, traffic, drivetrain losses, rolling resistance, and so on. And it's not that these devices don't necessarily work as advertised, it's that using them is incredibly complicated and time consuming.
I guess they typically require calibration rides, a wind and traffic-free environment for repeat runs, and a rigorous test protocol. You need an understanding of how to interpret the results and what to do with that information. So they're not exactly the easiest thing to use.
No, and that for me is exactly the problem. Now, power meters, they've been around for a few years now, and kind of in contrast to aero sensors, they're relatively simple to use. How hard are you pushing on the pedals? Here's the answer.
Even I know how to use it.
Like there's more to it, obviously, underneath the surface, but the tech itself is kind of relatively straightforward now, and watts are a currency that many of us are kind of familiar with. If the number's bigger, you're going well, and if not, well, I would, of course, love to be wrong, but sadly, I think this is a measurement revolution that's still some way off.
That's a shame, really, because making yourself more aero is the easiest and most effective way of making yourself faster.
Well, those are our road tech predictions. Which ones would you like to see come true?
And which do you think we've got completely wrong, or even missed entirely? Let us know down in the comments below.
And of course, remember to click that little like button.
Subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.